We need to introduce a queer main character into New Girl because that is the main area of representation that I notice we are lacking in. We do very well with religion and culture and race, gender, but I did notice that we lack in queer. And there are some like side characters that are like briefly introduced in the scenes, but I think having a main character as queer would be very important for that dynamic. Um, one of the most important aspects of including a main queer character is that it would reach a different audience without necessarily losing the current audience. And that'd be the LGBTQ community. They are always looking for representation in films and media. So I think that this is super important to make sure that they feel inclusive without just having the little scenes from side characters. I also feel like it's important to have a female main character be queer because males always tend to have the lead roles and they have that superiority over females already. So in that sense, that would also be not targeting the female audience, but there will be more female audience. I feel like that will enjoy that there's a queer female or main character. My idea was to have Cece become queer or be introduced as queer in the first season so that the character has time to develop over the season and the characters can grow a relationship with her. So right off the bat, we see that Schmidt and Cece have Schmidt is more obsessive over Cece from the second he meets her. So that's also why I think it's important that Cece needs to come out early in the show. And I think Jess should know because Jess is her best friend. So Jess should be the one in the loft that already knows about her coming out before she comes out. Possibly in a scene where Schmidt is trying to either like pursue Cece or get with her, she can come out and just explain, I am attracted to women. And I think Schmidt would be taken aback, but he wouldn't necessarily have to lose his interest in her since he is so obsessed with her already. I think Jess would be happy that she finally came out and be very supportive. And then the remaining roommates, Winston and Nick, would also be kind of surprised, but I think they'd be supportive as well since they don't really have that like baseline relationship already like Jess. And for later relationships with Cece, I think that when Reagan ultimately comes in the show, much later, but her character is bisexual. So instead of Nick and Reagan being together, we could add that Cece is also trying to pursue Reagan since they did previously like have some chemistry before she came into the loft. So I think that could be an interesting aspect to have both Cece and Nick fighting for Reagan, and that could be an entertaining couple episodes or prolong that through a season of who is Reagan gonna pick. Since in the show now, Cece and Schmidt do end up together, it's also important to have something happen to Schmidt too. I think he definitely should try to pursue Cece for a while. That would add some excitement. There could be some funny humor with that, with her turning him down and everything like that, and him trying to maybe convince her otherwise without being like disrespectful towards her queer identity and stuff like that. But I think that there are plenty of other female characters that Schmidt interacts with that could become a potential partner for him without worrying about messing up his and Cece's love story throughout the show. And Cece can also end up with many other characters that are involved. Reagan being one, depending on how that goes with Nick and Cece and Reagan. But that is a possibility.